Good morning, everyone. Good morning to yet another episode of Noodle Doodle. This is episode 13. My name is Lazaro Gomez. I am the host of Noodle Doodle. It is basically BOT10ART's podcast. So, on a weekly basis, every Sunday morning, I get up, I make my coffee, I grab my prompt book, pick a topic, pick a prompt, and go for it. If you're new to Noodle Doodle, then I want to be the first to say welcome, and I hope you stay for a long, long time. So, continuing on the same vein, I wanted to talk about communication, but last week um, we talked about a documentary that I saw on Netflix, and I continue to watch documentaries. Basically, when I'm working here in the studio on commissions, like custom pops and stuff like that, or artwork, I have something playing in the background. So I'm the type of person that I enjoy a lot of documentaries and stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of science and Discovery Channel and all these different things. I'm inspired by basically everything in life. Of course, being an artist, I can't help it but be inspired by everything in life. But I wanted to talk about communication because we've talked about branding, we've talked about style and all kinds of different things related to artwork, and I believe that communication is important as well. We talked about the importance of doodling and I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to uh, stay in that same vein and kind of talk about that a little bit. But I encounter a lot of different things as far as communication goes. When doing this kind of business, or I would imagine it's any business, right? Communication plays a part. It plays a part in our business, our lives. We are constantly bombarded with communication. It's the way that we communicate, for a lack of a better term. But we have different ways of communicating. But the actual act of communication has been with us really since the dawn of man. And so, if you're an artist or you're starting out, and you're kind of figuring your way through, this is one of the things that you got to kind of keep in mind, right? Because as an artist, you're communicating visually, right? You're communicating visually to the world. You're showing, the world your ideas, or getting a message across through the act of creating something visually. Oh, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Today's prompt is monkeys. I don't know what I'm going to draw with monkeys, but we'll see. We'll see what enters the old noodle. But yeah, I started thinking about communication and how important communication is for someone like me. What am I trying to say visually? And how am I expressing myself? How people, I guess, receive me in an online presence, basically through my videos, through my podcast, through all my images on Instagram, my tweets, and those kinds of things. And I think the internet is this kind of place that allows you to do really great things, but it's also a form of communication that could be used the wrong way too. We've seen that, of course, every time every time the news comes on, you get some kind of uh, notification or a story given to you about, not every time, but how people use the internet in wrong ways, either unethical hacking. I'm a science guy, so I'm cool with white hat white hat hacking, I guess. But you do have you have these people that infiltrate what am I trying to say? It's like they infiltrate, systems and this and that. They do malicious things, and they do it on social media because that's the latest and greatest way of communication, right? So I guess the best example of that would be the Russian intervention or interaction with the U.S. election, right? That's the most popular story that pops to mind. But anyways, same thing. Their goal was to manipulate systems and communicate with the U.S. population, and mission accomplished, right? They did it. But when I think about communication, um, I think of the good side, right? I always think about the positive side of communication. Of course, companies use, advertisements and TV ads and radio ads and all kinds of print ads and everything, of course, to push their brand onto customers, onto the public like us. That's a form of communication. It's like, so if you're starting a business, if you're an artist, not only are you trying to communicate to the masses, right? Communicate to the masses visually through your artwork, but at the same time, your business side of who you are as an artist has to have some form of, logical communication, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so communication is so important when it comes to business. And for me, as I mentioned before, I receive a lot of messages, I receive a lot of emails, and some of them are good. Hey, I found your artwork in such and such place. I really like it. Um, what do you charge for commissions? How do you do your commissions? Or, you know, the communication is proper. But then I do receive messages like, "Hey, you do pops?" It's like, well, yeah, cool, very cool. Are you interested in one? It's like, oh yeah, I want one. So and you start this process, and it's very like it's like you're dredging through or drudging through, the mud. You're just like, what do you want, man? What do you want? And of course, it's it's no fault of the person. I'm in no way saying or challenging the level of intelligence of the person. I believe they are smart people. It's just modern technology has made it different to communicate. You know, a lot of people like to text, and they like to send emojis, and they like to send gifs or gifs, depending on what side of the argument you're on there. um, but communication has been basically funneled down or filtered down to this real basic um, way of communicating. Of course, older folks, when they communicate via text message, they send you an email. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think there's an etiquette to communicating. Um, if you have something that you're going to say and it's rather lengthy, use an email. If it's a quick, short message, use a text. If what you're trying to convey or you're trying to send is something that you cannot put in words, that's when you pick up the phone and call someone. Call that person or have a meeting. So, in business, all forms of communication exist. Like for me, the biggest form of communication when it comes to artwork is email. So I email back and forth with my client. It's a great way for me to send roughs, to send thumbnails, and basically give them, give them a visual representation of what I'm working on for them. So email works great. Um, Not a big fan of video communication. I think a lot of the times, um, based on the connection, and this is why I'm not a fan of it. But like the connection between the communication can get jumbled up, and you can't really hear, and the person's cutting in and out, and you may miss a key detail that was important to whatever project you're working on. So um, if it's not email, it's personal contact. I will set up a meeting, and I'll sit down. I have my notebook. I'm writing down notes. I'm listening to my client, what they want to accomplish, because they themselves are trying to communicate with their masses. So there you have it. I mean, communication is pretty much vital to an artist in their business. But where did it all come from? How did all this happen, right? So the earliest form of communication was actually a visual communication, and it was in the form of cave painting. So petroglyphs, which are known as cave paintings, they're about 12, 13, oh well, yeah, it's about 12,000 years old. In case you were wondering. So visual communication was actually there before verbal communication. But I think that before communication or visual communication, there was body language, right? You could tell right away from someone's body language if they're angry or happy or whatever the case may be. And yeah, that was a form of communication as well. But that communication kept going and kept going. Pictograms, which are like symbols, those were popular around 6,000 BC, I think. I hope no one's quoted me on this sort of stuff, but it's pretty old. And that was basically like a proto-writing system that consisted of like ideas translated in drawing. Sorry, coffee time. Ideas in drawings. That kind of sounds like an emoticon to me. But that was used, 6,000 years ago. It kept evolving, it kept going, communication kept changing, right? So now we have writing, that was about 3000 BC-ish, around there, I'm guessing so. Of course, paintings dating older than that. The radio, right? Marconi, 1900s. Video is where kind of we're at, I would say, like the apex of communication, right? We have video conferencing, we have like video meetings across the world. So I think, even you watching this video, I'm recording it in my house and you're watching it in your house and we're communicating, right? I'm saying, you're listening, but I could also listen by you leaving comments. And that's where we're at, right? So the earliest video, or the first video uploaded to YouTube, I thought this was interesting. It was actually by the co-founder. I hope I say his name right. It's Jawed Karim. That was in 2005. So how fast, how fast have we evolved in communication? From radio to video, it's just wild, right? It's wild, but why so much communication? Why, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Why do people post so much? Why are they, oh, these are the pictures of my kids, families are communicating through Facebook or Skype or whatever other means of communication they're using. I just think it's in our nature to communicate with each other. We are social creatures, for a lack of a better term. But yeah, humanity is like that. No man is an island. That was Hemingway, and it's true. It's true. We long for that interaction, that human interaction. We long to have conversations, to listen, to describe, to talk about. If I find something really cool, I'm going to share it with my audience here. As a visual artist, you know, or as an artist, I should say. Visual artist is like a buzzword or whatever. But as an artist, yeah, I'm communicating, you know. It's what I like. And just kind of get people thinking about different things rather, you know, it's like something interesting to look at. Oh, that's pretty cool. You know, what's going on here? What's the artist saying? And those kinds of things, right? So it's important. It's very important. And we want to communicate. We still, you know, we want to communicate with each other. And then I started thinking about all of this stuff, and well, how does it, how does it apply to business? And it's really, really interesting because I found this thing, or I found this article talking about business communication. Basically, the way businesses use communication. So whether you're a small corporation, a small company, or a large corporation, you use all of these different tactics, right? These different communication tactics. So let's say you're a theme park. You're gonna want to create a buzz about your theme park, and make these super cool videos, or exciting little tweets, and and so on and so forth, to basically attract people to your business, to your park, right? To your theme park. And living in Orlando, the theme parks do a good job at that. They communicate very well. They communicate very well to the audience, and I can't tell you how many people here love theme parks. They either work at theme parks or they frequent them quite often. They just love them, right? They love theme parks, and there's nothing wrong with that. Theme parks are fun. I go to theme parks all the time with my family. We have a good time. That's what they're designed to do. But that business is communicating, right? It's communicating to me. Whenever I see an advertisement or something like that, that's their way of communication. So large corporations will use a large amount of, or a myriad of ways to communicate. So, through strategic planning, through media relations, through public relations, through broadcasting, through customer relations, all of those things, right? They may use all of them because that's their tactic, that's their plan to communicate. But if you're a small business, maybe you're just a single person like me, you're an artist, you could use all of those tactics if you have the resources to do so, or you could pick and choose which ones you want to do. So I use YouTube to communicate and to get my name out, and to kind of, show my artwork and have these conversations like this on my podcast. Every Friday night I do a live stream, and yeah, I'm communicating, right? I'm putting out my vision. I'm putting out what I feel I want to put out. So yeah, I am using that. Media relations, that's one of them. Public relations, I employ that tactic as well. So public relations, how does everybody see BOT10ART? How does everybody see Lazaro Gomez? And for me, going back to the whole internet thing, you have people that are completely opposite of what they are in real life, or offline. That's the new buzzword, offline. Or they're completely transparent, just like I am. The same Lazaro Gomez that's doing a podcast right here is the same Lazaro Gomez you're gonna encounter in the world. There's no different. I have good days, bad days. Hopefully the good outnumber the bad. I have emotions. Of course, I'm human. I'm an artist, so I tend to get a little bit more emotional about certain things. It's like, oh, Look at that squirrel, it's so beautiful. But I'm still communicating, right? That's my public relation. Social media deals with public relations. So the things I tweet, uh, the things I post on Facebook, even though I don't like Facebook that much, I'm barely on it. But yeah, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, that's my public relation, right? That's the way that I communicate to my audience. Uh, and it's so cool that we have a platform like that. You know, a long time ago, there was none of that. You know, you had to do interviews or you had to talk to your local newspaper or, you know, buy space in magazines and stuff like that to show people, hey, look, I'm an artist. I'm here. Check out my artwork. But now it's like, boom, you're ready to go. You can, you know, if you could tweet something, that's your tool for public relations. That's your communication. So, so I always thought that was awesome. I mean, I still think it's really awesome. It's a great way to reach a lot of people. And unfortunately, people use it for the for the wrong purpose. They post all kinds of all kinds of things. But the cool, you gotta. It's a careful balance, right? You gotta take the good with the bad. So the good thing is we have a voice. The bad thing is we're gonna hear everybody's voice, and it's up to you to decide what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear. And I may be a voice of reason for some people. I may be an annoyance. That's up to you to decide. And I am absolutely 100% cool with that. I get it because not everybody is going to buy what I'm selling. Not that I'm selling anything, but except artwork. But you get what I'm saying. There's there's a certain way of doing things, and yeah, that's that's how it goes. So that's communication in the modern age. So yeah, all these different tactics of communication are happening, and you know, when I started when I started thinking about this, that's kind of what I wanted to express. You know, what I wanted to tell you guys as an artist. How are you communicating? Number one, how are you communicating online? How are you communicating to your clients, which is the most important thing? I'm the type of person that I pride myself in my emails because they're simple, they're clear, um, and they're well length. So hey, thank you for reaching out to me. This is my process. This is how I get paid. This is what you get, and so on and so forth. And I basically start with an introduction. We start the project, and then I give periodic updates until the project is done and it's on its way to my client. And I think that's what I pride myself on. There's no convolution. It's straightforward, communication. And of course, using proper grammar. I am absolutely terrible when it comes to anagrams. I just or shorten words. It's like the LOL and IDK and whatever. Somebody say might say WW to describe Walmart, and I have no clue because that only exists in their world. So I try not to shorten anything. You know, I I'll take the time. It's okay. I could spell Walmart. I don't have to call it Wally World or WW or whatever the case may be. But I think it's important that when you're talking to people via email, when you're communicating via email, um, that you employ that you employ, proper grammar. And you know will the other person appreciate it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if I'm just old fashioned and I appreciate, old communication. But you know I certainly don't send my client um, everything I want to say in one sentence. you know so I'm not sending them, a Stephen King novel. But I am communicating. I am precisely saying, hey, XYZ. So there's, clear communication. There's no problems. And I think that what happens a lot of the times, especially when it comes to artists, you know, they may do a piece of artwork and not get paid. And it's because of the way they communicate it. Oh, I thought this was free. Oh, I thought this, oh, I thought that. So, the more you could eliminate when it comes to that, the better off you are. And, there is no communication breakdown. There is no confusion. You're saying precisely what you want to say. That person is saying exactly what you want to hear, or need to hear, I should say. Because, people may say things that you don't want to hear, but that's important, right? So the way that the people communicate back is also important. And from my experience, I have had projects that go real smooth because of that. Because the communication is, wide open. It's right there in front of me, and if I didn't get it, then there's something wrong with me. But I've also had projects that, unfortunately, I have to go through it and I have to pull from the person. Okay, what do you mean by this? What do you want here? Why do you, because a lot of the times it's just like, I want mustard yellow here. It's like, mustard yellow. I'm like, okay, that's not a real color, but are you saying that you want it to look like the mustard bottle yellow? Because that I can trace down and figure out what the RGB is, or the CMYK if needed. Or, your mustard yellow may be a different yellow than mine. So, or that may be a bad analogy, but, oh, I want a flower. Okay, how many species of flowers exist? Like, what flower would you like? Versus, hey, good afternoon. I was wondering if you could do a painting on canvas, acrylic painting on canvas of this orchid. And they send me yeah, we could do that. See, there's a difference there. So it makes, in the long run, taking a little extra step, couple minutes here and there to express what you really want to express will help you in the long run, and it'll save you time. Because now it's just like a direct communication. And when it comes to art, yeah, some ideas could be quote unquote abstract, right? So we've seen that with Picasso. He was an abstract artist, and he communicated certain things through abstraction, through his style of artwork. But then you have very concise, very specific forms of artwork that depict different things, right? You always see either some kind of painting or something of George Washington, triumphantly crossing the river. But that's someone's interpretation of, what they're trying to say there with George Washington crossing the river. Yeah, it was snowing. It was freezing. Here comes George Washington across the river valiantly? I think not. I don't think so. They would have been very huddled in, covered up because it's freezing. But if the artist did that or painted that, then it wouldn't give you that visualization of here's George Washington, General George Washington. You know what I mean? So, yeah, some things, some points are direct, some points are abstract, and those kinds of things. So, you have to think about it. What are you trying to communicate? Are you trying to be clever or witty and doing something that's gonna make people think? Because for me, one of my favorite artists is Banksy, right? Banksy is a genius of the. It's like there's a sign, there's a sign on the wall that says no parking. He'll get rid of the no and stencil in a little girl on a swing, and it says park. Like, oh my God, this is genius! This is genius. Not only is he bucking the system by poking fun of, the uh, what am I trying to say? The system, basically, uh, people in control, the higher robots, beep beep beep. But he did something cool. It was something like, oh, that it was funny. It was, and that's. I would like to think that Banksy is a funny guy. He's just like he gets it, and that's what I love about it. That's what I love about his style of artwork. He's communicating with us. He's telling us things, but he's doing it in a funny way. Um, and yeah, so you have, you have stuff like that, very impactful, very visually straight. Shepard Fairey, he's one of those guys. He did the Obama logo, and it's like, dude, yeah, man, we get it. He and also to put things in context, he is the creator of the Obey logo with Andre the Giant, which is also pretty cool. Both stencil artists, and they communicate well. But I think the reason why they communicate so well is because they understand what communication is. You know, I could draw a monkey here, and it's like, well, big deal, it's a monkey. But if I put like a monkey with a gun, then it's like, hey, I'm like a monkey with a machine gun. I'm just blabbing on about all kinds of nonsense. Or I could just, I could do the three monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And that could be a representation of what I'm talking about today: communication. And so all of those things, they come into play, right? They come into play. And I think it's important that not only, it's important if you're an artist to communicate, but more so, it's important to think about how you're communicating with the world, how you're communicating with your loved ones, because relationships are built on that. Relationships are built on communication. How you're communicating with your friends, body language, uh, are you sending memes to each other? I don't know, maybe somehow that does form a bond or it does form a relationship. I don't know. I have no idea. But at least for me, I like to have just clear communication, right? Honesty is the best policy. It's something that I kind of live by. And yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard to tell somebody something that perhaps may hurt their feelings. Um, but I think in the long run, you know, saying it with grace or dignity, without trying to affect the person, without trying to hurt the person, you establish a deeper, meaningful relationship. It's like, especially you see that a lot with like friends, like guy friends, and oh, what do you think about my girl? Oh, she's great, man, awesome. What, are you kidding? You know, and it's like that can be more hurtful than the reality, right? You can have a friend. Oh, what do you think about my girl? It's like, yeah, I don't know her. I'm just trying to get to know her. Right now, we don't see eye to eye, but I respect you. You're my friend, and if she's good for you, then she's good for me. See, so that's an honest communication, right? That's an honest, straightforward communication, rather than, oh yeah, she's awesome, man. Oh, keep her, because that person wouldn't ask if they didn't value your opinion. And if you're just gonna give some crappy, vague opinion, then what's the point? They're just gonna always think that. You know, you see that a lot. It's like, oh, where do you want to eat? I don't care. Where do you want to eat? Let's go eat at the dumpster, I guess, since you don't care. No, you have a voice, you have an opinion, you have a way of communicate. Do so, do so. And I think that's how bonds get created. And for me, uh, I'm trying to build your trust. I'm trying to build an audience, and I do that by communicating here on my podcast. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week. We will do the same thing next week. This is the second week I don't draw. I'm kind of upset. I know. I do apologize for that. For everybody watching on YouTube. But anyways, we'll get to it. We'll get to it, I promise. It's just some topics are pretty heavy, and I have to concentrate on what I'm saying. If not, I just get lost. Just like this monkey. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you like this, make sure to leave me some likes. If you have any comments as to what I should cover next, please leave them on the video. But yeah, we'll see you next week, same time, same day, Sunday morning. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. And we'll see you next time.